The video you're watching is an example of me attempting to test a piece of software off the internet before I run it. The version we're looking at here of the file we're looking at is called RustRome, and it's a piece of software to play a video game called Rust from 2013, and it's modified by a group that decided to make their version RustRome. It's a file that you can download by going to their website that then links to another copy of the website for some reason. And then from that, it leads to the downloads on a website somewhere randomly and also on Google Drive. I'm using the Google Drive version, and it does let you download zip files. It offered 3 of them, and only 2 of them downloaded in such a way that I can do an extraction. One of them, the smallest one, seems to have either an error in it caused by Google Drive, or maybe somehow the zip file got broken partially. Okay, so we'll just do these 2. And I picked arbitrarily whichever one of these I wanted to. They're about the same size at 1.4 gigabytes each. Inside of them, there are 2 copies of the game. Now, we're just going to arbitrarily go here to this zip file. And I'm going to open it not by just double-clicking it, because, okay, we'll do that just once. And you can see it has a bunch of random characters. That is because it is Cyrillic, and Cyrillic isn't processed correctly on my computer because I don't have Cyrillic alphabet. So I'm going to send this to 7-zip, and when I open it in 7-zip, we see it in Cyrillic. It also kind of chokes a bit because even it doesn't like Cyrillic. Now I'm going to open the main directory within it, because every time you get a zip file, it always does this thing of having a subdirectory. Inside of it, we have 2 directories, and the translation for this is without grass, and the other one with grass. I'm going to use the without grass here. And when we look in here, we have RustRome legacy bt.exe, a text file, and then a directory structure with a torrent. Torrent is pretty commonly used as a second way of downloading and or updating. Okay, fine. So we have RustRome legacy bt.exe. So I throw that out here, and there it is. Now, instead of exe, I renamed it .7z because we're going to use 7-zip at this point. We right-click that, send to, and I look into it using 7-zip. Now within it, we find an interesting problem. Instead of the 700 megs or whatever out of the 1.4 gigabytes, we have 1 floppy's worth of stuff here. The size in here, when we highlight the whole thing here and look at properties, we see that we're holding, again, the physical size here. It's taking up a lot of space, but the actual size of the data here isn't the file we need. It isn't. It's missing. What happened is this file is not really, obviously it's not really a 7-zip file, but that's as close as we can get it. It's an executable. Now within the executable, it's hiding the entire game storage somewhere. Now we're going to have to rip that out, but we need to figure out which type of ripper we need, because we're not going to trust the installer. The idea is to extract it by force. Now you'll notice it says over and over again, A uninstall, AI wizard, AI header, AI setup, etc. Now when I looked up AI installer, I found out it's called actual installer. That's the name of the installer. And it's an open source piece of software that's reasonably safe and all that. But it has a scripting utility or scripting function. So we're going to look at the INI file. That's always a good idea because it's the most likely one to have the script. When we look in here, we can see that it does a bunch of stuff that an installer would do. It does a bunch of tests for Windows 98 and above that say yes or no, this will work. Mostly for the extractor and installer. It's not really for running the game, although it might be. And then we go down and we find out the thing I found on a forum, that when it does compression, it takes every file, let's say Rust icon.ico or the uninstaller for Rust, and it just renames them to file number 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 271. So there are actually 271 files that this thing compresses by renaming them just like that. Now, in order to extract it, the thing that was mentioned is instead of opening it with a zip manager or 7-zip, we right-click this, and instead of the 700 megabytes going to some sort of extractor and not getting any of it, we send it to something called uniextract 20, or just uniextract 16 even. When we do that, this automatically will create a directory structure, and the output of the uniextract is here. Now this is the zip extract, and I'm just going to go into it real quick. And in here we see the AI setup.ini, and that was that file we're looking at. Okay. So we're going to go here and look in the output of uniextract, and guess what? It's a bunch of files that are just named 1 through 200 something. That's it. Now what I did was I took that ini file and turned it into a text file called fix. And I chopped it at the files listing. Now this is where things get to be a problem. Again, this installer program, all it does is throw everything under the installer directory or install directory. Okay? And it says file named 0 is to equal whatever our directory is, and rename it uninstall.exe. Now what that means is that I could put in front of these a command like ren rename 0.nothing to that name, and I could rescript this. Now that means I'd have to edit out all of this extra stuff after the question marks and that sort of thing, question mark -1, etc., and go right ahead and just make this from being a list of files for the scripter to use and write one that would be a batch routine. So to review, in order to get this installer to just let me extract the files without needing to interact with an executable that I'm supposed to trust, even though it's only 1 floppy's worth of stuff, if I don't want to do that, if I don't want to trust it, I want to test it, I can do this extract, which I've already done. The output is over here, but all the files are going to have these weird names to them. I have to go through all these layers where I'm using 7-zip and uniextract version 2 to do the work, and who knows what else I might have to do after this point. Also that I can take a file off the internet that could have just been done as a pure zip file and just let me have it and not have to have an installer. I have to do all this work in order to turn it into literally a portable video game, because it is. And again, what that requires I do is sit there and either manually rename all of these files, which is possible, or write a batch routine based on that text file that I found here, start at a certain point, and just start having a program look for file number 20 and then rename it. In this case, it would be physmaterial 000 Unity 3D. So I can go through and I can batch edit this thing into a directory structure rebuilder myself. I can do that. I know how to do it. But most people don't know how to do that. It would take a little bit more effort than some of you might want to go through. And that's actually how we do it. Once we get it to where they're all executables or text files or data files or whatever, then we can just right-click and say, scan with a virus scanner. So welcome to my little world where I have to do this in order to test programs and not just trust them. And again, all of this could have been skipped by acknowledging it's just a file structure. You can just throw it on a directory on your computer and just run the program and not have to go through any of this. Or you can just run the program, download it, and trust the website. And that's fine. Or I could do the double whammy and extract this fully, all of them, and just dump them onto my Google Drive and put a bunch of links someday in a video where you can just download it from there. Because RustRome should have been released, along with every other modded version of any video game, they should have been released old school DOS method where everything's just a bunch of extractables and doesn't have to be put through this. That means we could virus scan them easily, and more importantly, we wouldn't have to deal with installers that we have to trust. Anyway, that's the video for today. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that. And this has been a video on how I go through the process of, decompressing files and ripping them loose and testing them. Bye.